Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Learn with Dr. G. That's me. Today, I am so incredibly excited because I have a team of folks who have been developing games for years, and I am just so excited to talk about the entire game development process, from art to sound to code to, I don't know, probably things I'm not even thinking of. So if you want to learn more about game development, stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, so before I bring all of the folks onto the stream, I did want to show you a quick demo reel of all of the games that they've been building for the last like 6 or so years. So let's take a look at that now. I love the aesthetics of your games. If you have watched the Learn with Dr. G show in the past, you know that I am like always super high energy and like, and I need this like calming music and beautiful artwork to just calm me down. I've been like playing Minecraft for a while and just like that music to just chill me out a little bit. So welcome. So I'm so excited. Welcome, Ghost Garden Games. I'm so excited to have y'all here. And before we kind of jump into some questions, and hi, if you are watching on any of the YouTube channels or Twitch channel or Learn TV, please ask questions in the chat. We can see you. Before we jump into questions, I would love for you all to introduce yourself. So I'm going to kind of go through my list. And if you could just say what you do on the team and maybe what your favorite game to play is. So Catherine, do you want to go first?
Hi, everybody. I'm Catherine Nastasi. I'm actually the producer and the technical artist on Ghost Garden Games. And my favorite game is Bloodborne.
Ooh, I'm going to probably not have played most of your favorite games because I don't play a ton of games. I love kind of the game development process and playing like certain games when I discover them, but I'm going to have to take note of all of these games that y'all tell me about. Thank you, Catherine. It's great to have you. Asher, do you want to go next?
Of course. Hi, I'm Asher. I'm the lead artist or animator on the team. And recently I've been playing a lot of Going Under on my Switch, and it's been really fun. I love like dungeon crawly games. So
awesome. Speaking of dungeon crawling, I was streaming Minecraft earlier and I found a cave and finally like organized it. And I was just like, yes, calm. I'm telling you, my game dev experience isn't big. It's like Minecraft and Animal Crossing. So apologies. Victoria.
Hey, I'm Victoria Preston. I'm the head of narrative design, and I've been super into BioShock recently.
Ooh, awesome. Leslie Ann.
Hi, I'm Leslie Ann Warrington. I am in charge of sound design for Ghost Garden Games, and I've been playing too many games recently because I've been busy, but my favorite game ever is Ocarina of Time, and I love the Zelda series, so.
Definitely. Claire.
Hey y'all, I'm Claire. I am lead software engineer and programmer. My favorite game of all time is an oldie but a goodie. It's Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri.
Ooh, I haven't heard of that one. I'm definitely gonna check these out. Raquel.
Hi, I'm Raquel. My role in the team is one of the software engineers, so programming and stuff like that. Also, it's kind of funny that you said your experience with gaming is small because so is mine, because my favorites were Minecraft and Animal Crossing too. So.
Great. Well, then we'll just have to like play them together later. Henri.
Hello, everyone. My name is Henri Harper. I'm one of the software engineers and doing quality assurance. And my favorite games are Bloodborne and Dark Souls.
Awesome. I've heard of Dark Souls. Don't know anything beyond the title, but I've heard that it's amazing. And Julia.
Hi, I'm Julia. My role on the team is software engineer, and my favorite game is Animal Crossing. So
yes,
I love simulators.
Awesome. Yes. Well, it's so great to have you all here. I am so excited. As you can see from the just like total landscape of who these folks represent in terms of the team members, from artists to sound engineers to coders, it's just a full team. And that's really, whether you're building a video game or you're doing data science projects, which is stuff that I typically talk about on my show, or building any kind of project, even if it's not necessarily a software project, having a diverse group of experiences and expertises, I think is so critical to creating a full customer or like consumer or player or whatever that word is experience, a full experience. As I mentioned, I mostly play Minecraft to just like chill out when I'm in the middle of a busy day, and the music just kind of brings me together and calms me down and allows me to kind of get into the right headspace. And oftentimes I'm talking to developers because that's my primary background. And so I am so excited to talk to folks who have expertises, who are SMEs, subject matter experts in so many other aspects to video game development. So I think to get started, let's chat with the art team because I want to learn a little bit more about that piece. Of course, don't worry, we are going to chat with all of the developers as well, but I do want to learn a little bit more of that piece too. So Claire and Raquel and Henri and Julia, we're going to have y'all chillax for a little while while the rest of us chat. So hi. Hello, art team. And I am monitoring the chat. So yes. I have a question, which is, you all have background and expertise or experience or interest in art, whether it's kind of, drawing or sound or something that I am not super familiar with because I am not an artist. How does that play a role with like software and video game development, and how, as if you identify as an artist, like how did you get involved or interested in this type of project?
Sure, I think this one's you.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, I mean, I've been drawing basically since I could hold a pencil. And my favorite thing to do is combine like storytelling and art and making characters out of the things that I draw and like designing characters. So the character design aspect of it is what really appeals to me in like game development. It's just like getting to take this world and like make little characters that fill it up and populate it. And I guess in terms of combining that with coding, basically this entire team, this whole art team, we come up with ideas together, and some of them are a bit like big picture, like a little bit too much. So we have to kind of like take that and like limit ourselves to like what is actually feasible, like what can we actually do. So it's sort of combining this creativity with like the realism of it and like what we can actually achieve, I suppose.
That's a really great point. Like, you know, I think when, and I'm very novice when it comes to art. So full disclosure. So apologies if I'm saying things that aren't exactly right. But when I think of art, I think of beyond kind of our real world, right? Something that you can not just kind of create something that doesn't, you know, exist, but also have the person who's watching it experience something that they couldn't experience just in our physical world. And it's really interesting though, when you tie that with like software development or video game development, because then you do have some technical constraints around what you can actually do. And I imagine that's probably challenging too, right? Like you have this vision of what you want to create, but then there's some technical limitations, and you know, you don't want to try to get something that's super out of this world and then have it not perform well in the game. How is that give and take across like the two, you know, sides of game development, the more artistic and the more development?
It takes a lot of communication.
It's definitely challenging because like you have a lot to keep in mind with games, because not only is it supposed to be an interactive experience, it's also supposed to be fun. So you have to keep in mind how to make it fun and not just like an art. I mean, art games are fine and good. I love to just like walk around, explore, like no real mechanic, I suppose. But like when you're going for like a more mechanic or like story focused, you have to keep in mind the fun aspect of it, and that's been really like challenging so far.
That's a good point. Okay, I'm curious, Leslie Ann, I'm curious about sound.
Okay.
I sound to me is so fascinating. As someone who is just loud and can't sing and doesn't know anything about playing any kind of instruments or anything, I find myself on these like YouTube videos talking about the sound of movies and the musicality of it, and not only the lyrics but the notes and all these things. And it's just, you know, the moment that you get immersed into a song or a movie or something, it's always that sound. And I think that with video games, that's probably even more true, because it's not just the music or you know, the walking on grass and having it sound like grass or something. Can you just tell me more about what you do and why you're passionate about it?
Yeah, so I came from mostly a background of music initially. I've been playing various different instruments since I was like maybe 11 or so. But it wasn't until high school when I started to really get into making video games, and I realized that I'm like obsessed with the like the overlap of sound and technology, and like video games is like a really good way to explore that. And it's just trying to think about how just like the user experience is wholly affected by sound, because you can have sometimes silent games can be effective if like the silence is used properly, but that's also like part of sound design, honestly, is thinking about where the sound needs to go and how it is and how it will affect the player. But I mean, I'm very new to sound design specifically because I've mostly been, you know, for our games and game jams, I mostly just would compose the background music, and then I would have to find sound effects online because I wasn't skilled enough to make those yet, and I didn't know anything about that. So I'm finally delving into all of that, and it's absolutely fascinating just recording stuff and messing with it and trying to make cool sounds out of it that fit into the game.
So cool. Speaking of like kind of finding things online, we had a stream, or actually it was we couldn't live stream it, but we did have a recording go up earlier this week, Tuesday morning, and we had some folks who focus on mixed reality and video game development, and they were showing us these amazing toolkits where you just get to like build upon what professional mixed reality physics people build, and you don't have to recreate everything from scratch. And what we talked about was, you can start from there. And then if you wanted to create a world where you're not using real physics, then you can start to learn how to go in and manipulate pieces of the physics system and make it, more nuanced. And I think that's kind of exactly what you were just describing, which is like, use what is there.
Yeah.
And then as you discover what you want to focus on and engage with, then you can kind of dive into that. That is so neat. I love that.
There's definitely a ton of resources out there for it, but delving into like actually making the things from scratch is a whole other thing that I'm learning about right now, but it's absolutely fascinating.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Do you use mostly like software, like instruments, or do you also play around with like real instruments to bring them in or something?
I've been trying to mess around with my instruments that I have, because I have a couple of guitars in my house. So I'm trying to get my little like recording setup for that going. So, because I know that there's a lot of cool sound effects that you can just make like with the guitar. So I'm gonna be messing with that a lot in the next few weeks. But I'm also I'm producing things like synthetically in software also.
So cool. That is, Sorry, I'm probably going to be saying that's so cool a lot because I just find this really cool. For those of you who don't know, I actually built a video game when I was in grad school. Wasn't super great. We definitely used like pre-existing prefabs for these gnomes that were really scary, and they had like blood all over them. I don't want to get into it. It was a kid's game. Don't ask. But I know the challenges with it to an extent. And so I think this is something that I definitely want to get more into and learn more about and start practicing more. One thing that I absolutely love is stories. So Victoria, I do want to chat with you for a second, because whether it's just books like novels or fantasy or like even just these like 1 minute TikToks where they like create this whole world in like a minute. And I'm like, how? And I feel like the storytelling, the narrative around a video game is probably one of the most important pieces to tie everything together. Tell me about that a little bit.
Well, I love it. First of all, it's so fun. Like since I was a kid, I've always had like such an active imagination. So I would build these worlds in my mind and just like, that's where they'd live. But now I can take them and put them out there and make them into games, have the artist draw stuff, like see it all work and put together. And it's so incredible. And it's a dream come true to be able to do it. And
so I've had overactive dreams my entire life. And something that I've always regretted is that I have not put in any time to develop any artistic skills to be able to make those come to life. And there have been some where I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be such an amazing video game. Oh my gosh, this would be such an amazing like movie. And for some reason in my head, I was always like, but I don't know how to do art, so I guess it'll never happen. And literally right when you were describing that, you were saying that when you were younger, you would create stories, and to now be able to partner with like, Asher, for example, and have just like it, have like an entire team to support you to being like building something and making it real. And obviously all of you, I imagine, have pieces of that story and have voices, but like, oh, I'm jealous. That's like, awesome. So in like a happy way.
But what's great about working with someone else, like with a team, is like, even if I have a story like built, planned out, written, whatever, everybody has input, and like just little suggestions will make it so much better. And things like I wouldn't even think about because I'm so like focused in on my ideas. So like story, but to work with other people is so great.
That is Sorry, I'm just like super excited about it all. I went back to the other day. I was tweeting about how I have a 3-year-old daughter, and randomly, she started assigning people in the family with different names. So some of us are cacks, and some of us are puffs. Changes. One day, puffs I think is the preferable one because she's a puff. But like one day I came home and she's like, "You're a cack," and I'm like, "What? How? Why am I all of a sudden?" But you know, I'm like, oh man, I wonder what is going on in her mind and what stories and how I can maybe help her learn how to bring it to life, even if she's not, you know, an artist or a developer, like whatever medium she wants to kind of go into. I think that's that's so neat. Catherine, you're producer. And we've gotten a chance to talk to a couple of producers on this mini series on game development. I'm so curious, like how I've gotten a chance to talk with a producer who kind of works on these kind of bigger games like Minecraft. I got to talk to a Turn 10 studio producer over in Xbox. But having a team of people who've been together for a while now, right? And kind of navigating, like you said, that communication and all of the passion and ideas, and actually producing multiple games. Can you tell me a little bit about that process?
Well, it's very easy when you all go to high school together.
I think that is so neat.
A lot of us started off like in high school together, just wanting to make these really cool experiences. There were little game jams that were put on by LSU, which is our college in Baton Rouge, and we decided to go for it. Our high school really supported us, and we were like, yeah, we would love to take our group of friends and go and see if we can go to these game jams that all these college kids are doing and see if we can't make something. The first game we ever made actually was for a game jam. It was Un Petit.
Yeah.
So that was actually the first game in 2015 we ever made. We actually learned how to do it on the spot at the game jam.
And you won best art at that game jam.
Yeah.
That, like, you know, little side note, that's awesome.
It's crazy to look back at it now and like how baby my art was at the time, because it's so like
we
it's
were
a little
so
embarrassing,
small.
but
to be fair, that is way better than any art that I've ever attempted in my entire life. So
but yeah, we started super simple. We picked up a copy of GameMaker, which was a video, like a little 2D like pixel engine back like in 2015.
Yeah.
They've since released like way better versions of it, but like we actually have been using GameMaker for so long that like she went to a whole different UI scheme in the middle of like half of our development.
That is so neat.
We just kept doing game jams. We started college and we got the opportunity to do Chillennium 2019, which was actually an LSU field trip to Texas A&M. And Asher and I decided to go. We couldn't quite get the whole team together for it. And we met Julia for the first time, which y'all will meet in a little bit. And yeah, the team's just really come together since then. We started off in high school as sophomores with this idea to make this game about a sound wave, and well, we're still here together and we're actually making it. It's kind of unreal sometimes.
That is so neat. I think that, you know, something that we sometimes take for granted is when you're in school, whether it's high school or, you know, a university or college or boot camp or any kind of formalized education space, creativity can really flourish, and the relationships that you can form with folks who want to create with you, I think, are just so powerful. And sometimes it's difficult to find that outside of school. And so the fact that not only did you find it, but then you decided to continue to pursue it, not only, you know, just like through school and just doing it on your own. And now y'all are part of a game camp program with Microsoft. Is that true?
That's correct. We actually found out last year, maybe a little bit more, but at like a fair that LSU was doing for video game design with talking to some cool video game companies in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And they were talking about this thing called Xbox Game Camp, and we're like, oh, it's in New Orleans? Well, let's go ahead and apply. I mean, we were super excited because any opportunity we can take to learn.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like a lot of us have kind of started from not knowing anything and learning everything. So we just always wanting to take the opportunity to learn more. And when we heard about it, we're just like, well, we can throw our names in and see if we get in. And
Yeah.
if we do, let's make something great out of it.
And I think that's, game camps, game jams, just building one, like it doesn't have to be a formal game jam. You could just literally say this weekend, we're going to game jam together, right? Like, I think taking those moments to just almost throw caution to the wind, throw the anxieties, throw the nerves, and just say, let's just see what happens and try to learn something from this, I think is one of the most important things, not just for game development, but for gaining skills in any field. Okay, I do want to chat with some of the developers now, but before we go, I did have a quick question. What do you enjoy working with most in your individual discipline? Catherine, do you want to go first?
So I'm a technical artist on the team. I like to, I actually build the rooms in the engine and I do all the lighting and stuff. I love color so much. Like I love lighting and just color and just making, you can take almost any art, and just by the time that you put all of your special effects on, and like your overlays and your lighting, it's just the transformation that you can do to a piece of art or to a room or to an environment just by changing the overall color and tweaking it can just bring so much emotion and feeling into the experience. And that's just personally, that's my favorite part. I love making these little interactive experiences.
Yeah, I think I learned something about lighting and color when it comes to mixed reality, and you have like the glasses and things that it's literally, color is literally all about light when you're in mixed reality. And so the color black is extremely difficult to show up in mixed reality because black is the absence of light. Light and color. That's so neat, so fascinating. Asher, would you like to tell us a little bit too?
Yeah, sure. I think I already mentioned that my one true love is like character design. And recently, as my art has improved over the years and going through like art school and stuff like that, I've really been trying to push the personality of my character designs and sort of make sure that they're dynamic and you can like look at a character and see sort of who they are, what they like. And with our recent game project, that's really like key to the characters. So it's been really fun to push that to a new extent.
Yeah.
And just having fun making people out of nothing, basically.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Victoria.
Yeah, I love doing dialogue between characters. It's so much fun to like kind of get into their heads and be like, what's their personality? What would they be thinking in this kind of situation? What would they say? Because like I am a very cheerful, bubbly person, but if I have to write for like a depressed old man, like I have to get into like his mind and be like, what would he say right now? And it's so much fun to just try out different personalities and write for them.
It's like writing a novel, but then actually getting to see it play out.
Exactly.
That's so cool. That's awesome. And Leslie Ann.
Yeah, so especially with like this is a bit more specific to the game that we're working on, but since you're playing as a Soundwave, there's a lot of cool sound things that come in with that. So I'm like, thinking about how like sound affects the character and the environment, or like the absence of sound would affect her, or things like that. Yeah, it's really cool to think about like the mechanics of all of that.
I think that's so neat that you're going to combine not only the sound of the, I was about to say film, but of the video game, but combine that with the actual gameplay. That's so exciting. All right. Well, thank you so much art / sound / production / narrative team for answering all of my questions. If you are watching and you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the chat. We will have a short amount of time at the end for some Q&A. So thank you so much. I'm going to have you all head off, and I'm going to bring on the developers. So for the development team, we have Claire, and we have Julia, and we have Raquel, and we have Henri. Welcome.
Hello.
Thank you all so much for joining. I appreciate your time. I am so excited. I come from the development side, and I know a little bit about game development, like I said, but not a ton. I usually work in like Unity with C# and tools like that. I'm curious, what kind of tools do you all use, either on some of the games that you've built or that you would want to learn, or that kind of world? Claire, do you want to go
Sure.
first?
So currently the project we're working on is based in Unity. I really do love Unity because it makes so many of the processes in the organization and the game making engine bits a lot smoother and a lot more accessible.
Yeah.
As far as what tools I would love to work with, I do love the Unity VR support. I want to get a chance to play with that at some point in the future, but with what we're working on, it doesn't quite fit the mood we're going for. So.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think Unity, and that's, we talked about using assets that exist in the world and kind of building on top of them when we were chatting with Leslie Ann. But then I think that's true about the tools that we use as well, right? Like Unity has choosing the right tool with the right tool set and kind of all of the pieces that it comes with, I think is a critical part to it. Yeah, that's super interesting. Raquel, do you have any particular tools that you love or want to learn about that you've not experienced yet?
We used to use Game Maker, and
Yeah.
I honestly, it's been so long since we touched it, but I really do like Unity because this is my first time learning Unity, and honestly, I don't think I even know enough to know what I would want to learn. So I just have to find something new and then want to learn that, I guess. But I really do like Unity because, like Claire said, it does make things a lot simpler, and just I feel like it makes it easy to click things together. So I just like that a lot.
Yeah. I have played around with Game Maker a little bit a long time ago, but it's been a while. I'll have to play around with it again. Henri, do you have anything that you have used or what parts of it you like or you want to learn?
So, I had a project in one of my game design courses in the spring of 2020, and we used Unity for that to build like a little prototype of a game. So I had a little bit of experience coming into game camp. So it was nice to be in somewhat familiar territory.
Yeah.
But going forward, I'm just looking to learn as much as I possibly can about different engines, not just Unity.
Yep, definitely. I know Unreal is kind of one of the other ones. For prototyping, I actually love to use MakeCode. I don't know if y'all ever heard of it, but it's targeted for children, or like 8 to 14 or something like that. But I love it because the fast ability to just kind of put an idea from your head into a world and actually like play it for a second and just see, am I even on the right track? I love that as like a prototyping tool.
It's like a sketch.
It is. Exactly. Julia, what about you?
So I also took like a game design class at LSU, and so they taught us how to use Unity. So I was pretty familiar with it before coming into game camp and everything and using Unity. But I also worked in Game Maker on Headspace with them, like they previously mentioned, and we also took a course in Game Maker last year just together to learn prototyping and how to prototype. So that's why, like, we have like a vertical slice up on our website and everything like that. So I really enjoyed using Game Maker, but I definitely feel that Unity is a lot easier. You can do a lot more with it. I would like to work in 3D because I mostly have worked in 2D. So that would be really fun to work with, like Claire said, VR or something like that one day. But
That next frontier.
Yes, yes. Well, you can watch our previous episode where we introduced some of the mixed reality stuff. They gave us some quick tips for how to get started with that. So I played around with it a little bit on Tuesday afternoon and actually got something working in Unity in the hour, even with like needing to re-download something. So it can be a ton of fun. Okay, I'm curious, like similarly with the, last half of your team, but as developers, you can do lots of different things with those skills. What attracted you most to, focusing a little bit on game development? Claire, if you want to kick it off.
Yeah, sure. I think part of so my degree is in computer science and I'm working on my master's in computer science right now. And part of what has attracted me to computer science in general is you can build an entire world where you set the rules and the data and you can create. I think it's an amazingly creative field. And part of what attracted me to game development is it's a really obvious, clear expression of that. And I do think that games act as because I, like the art team, really love story and really love beautiful visuals. And it's kind of a melding of those two worlds where you're creating and building and making something interactive to tell a story in an interactive way. And I think there's something really cool about that.
Yeah, that's a good point. I feel like when I'm building software that will still be used by people, but isn't kind of this immersive experience, the closest I can get is kind of like, a paper prototype or, a functional prototype that you kind of click through, but you don't get to bring it to life like you were describing, right? And I think that's such a powerful piece of it. Raquel, do you want to tell us a little bit about what attracted you to game development?
Sure. So what I really like about it is, like Claire said, you can be really creative and do whatever you want, make your own rules. But I always have so much trouble. I'm not very artistically inclined, but I've always been surrounded by friends who are very artistically inclined. And I just love seeing my friends make things. And I love the fact that I get to be part of bringing it to life. Like, it's difficult for me to come up with a really cool story, but whenever someone else does, I like being part of it and being able to make it come alive. So it's sort of like taking the creativity that's already there and making it more, or like doing something with it. So I really like that part of it. And then also being able to make something that someone can enjoy, because sometimes in computer science, what you do is very behind the scenes, but I like being able to do something and then watch someone play it and interact with it and be like, oh my God, that was so great. So I really like that.
That's a great point. I like working on customer facing or consumer facing products in general for that reason, but I think video games kind of brings a little bit more heart to it. Henri, do you want to tell us a little bit about what attracted you?
So I've been playing games since I was very little, growing up with all different kinds of characters, worlds, series, and something just like sparked that this is what I want to do with my life. I want to make it to where I can provide these characters, these stories, these experiences to other people. And game design and more broadly computer science is the perfect avenue for that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I love that across, your entire team, some of you have been playing video games for a very long time, and that was a huge passion of yours, still is, and, part of why you like to do it. And some of you are more like, yes, I like playing games, but I'm not, it's not something I did as a child or something. And I think that is a common misconception, is that people think that if you aren't always playing games all the time, then you're not supposed to get into game development. One of my best friends works on Minecraft, and she had never played Minecraft before joining the Minecraft team. And that doesn't mean she's gonna, ruin it or anything like that, but she's going to play it, learn about the community, learn about, the players who enjoy playing it, and bring a new perspective to it too. And I think that's just super powerful. And Julia, do you want to tell us a little bit about what attracted you?
So I started programming because in high school I did first robotics, and I was on the electrical team, but I always thought programming was interesting, but like programming team was full. So I just decided when I went to school that it would be cool to do computer science, and I was either going to do like data analytics or maybe go into like medical technology, because I'm type 1 diabetic. And so medical technology has like literally saved my life multiple times. And so when I got to school, I started thinking more about like what I wanted to do. And when I was in high school, I was also in talented art. I also was someone who drew a lot and liked design. And so I figured out that I didn't really like the whole biotechnology or data analytics. I liked more of like kind of echoing what Raquel said. I like seeing people enjoy the experience that I programmed for them. And it's really cool being able to write a line of code and then, you know, run the game and just see it work. And like, you know, there's this, it's like magic almost, especially to people who don't know about programming, but even still to me who knows about programming, it's just really fascinating to just be able to create those experiences that people will enjoy. And yeah. So.
Julia, we would have been or can still be best friends. Like everything you said, I can echo. I got into computer science. I thought I was going to be a medical doctor. Then I was like, maybe I'll do some math. And then I found coding and I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do that. And then I wanted to do like bioinformatics because I have asthma, and I did like asthma studies, and I was like, oh, I want to kind of get into like how that plays a role and research that. And then I found computer science education, and I lit up at seeing other people build things after I kind of taught them. And I think like it's so neat that you said that. And the last connection is my favorite quote of all time related to programming is that you type the right incantation on the keyboard and something magical appears on the screen, which is from the Mythical Man Month by Brooks. And that's exactly how I feel. Like magic can be learned, but it does feel like magic, you know? And if I don't know if you know, Scott Hanselman is an avid, he's an advocate. Yeah, he's just so amazing. And he also has type 1 diabetes. And that's part of what got him into, or like in his early days, he would build medical devices around it in open source and things like that. And I listening to him talk about his story is really neat too. So that's awesome. All right, we've got a ton of questions in the chat. So I'm going to bring everyone back and we're going to start asking some of these questions. And so feel free to answer the questions that you think, you know, you might have a great answer for. So there was one up here. Here we go. Can you talk a little bit about like money and funding? And I know that a lot of you are students still, or all of you, but like, I remember when so I built the game in grad school, but then we started a company and started kind of like thinking about that and what you should do there. We ended up making a Kickstarter for ours because while we were in school, we didn't necessarily need funding. But then when we left school, we were like, oh, we need funding now. So we ended up doing a Kickstarter project for it, which was a ton of work, but really, really interesting. Have y'all started thinking about that or already doing that? Can you talk a little bit about it?
So definitely, that's definitely in the works for us in maybe like the next like year or two. Right now, we're in the process of really for our current project, we're hammering out like primary mechanics and are getting our vertical slice done of like everything we want the game to contain and really testing out our game design to its full extent. So within like a year and a half maybe that we're going to start moving into the territory of like, do we want to see if we can get funding for Echo, or if we wanted to continue just kind of doing it by the bootstraps, which is kind of how we're doing it at the moment. We're all students right now, so the need for like a lot of money hasn't like come just yet. We're all basically doing a lot of this in-house and just learning how to do it ourselves. And we all have like, since most of us are still students, I mean, part-time jobs are readily available. So that way we can have enough time to work on the game. Certainly, that is one of the bigger struggles, definitely, which is just like time. Because video game development is a lot of time.
Yeah. And especially if you're also students and also part-time jobbing it, that's a lot. That's a lot. So the fact that y'all have so many games that you have produced already is incredible. Definite kudos to you all.
That's why game jams are so great, because you get
Yeah.
to dedicate just a weekend of your time and not worry about anything else, just dedicate it to that project. Because I know this longer project, this is sort of our first longer project.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been hard. I think the most challenging thing so far has been allocating the time for it and actually finding times where we all can work on it.
That's a really great point. That's a really great point. Game jams and game camps and things like that.
I think game jam is probably one of the reasons that I realized that I liked making games, because I don't think I would have had the motivation to sit down and do a bunch of Unity tutorials or Game Maker tutorials. Like, it was the fact that we had a weekend and it was, your goal was make a game, and it was, we just, or at least I think most of us just kind of learned it on the spot. It was just like, okay, I guess I'll figure out how to do it, because usually on your own, it's hard to be like, okay, I'm going to make a thing.
Yep.
Like, once you know what you're trying to make and what you're trying to do, you can just start Googling and start learning things. And that's how I realized that I liked it. So
Yeah.
Having your producer calling you up too, asking you what the progress is on that.
True.
Also
A formal team. Some hierarchy. Yep. Great
But I
point.
mean, no, I definitely get you. Starting out, definitely the game jams were irreplaceable. Like, they were so useful to us, of just like, you have to make a game in 48 hours. And it's like, so whatever you do, you're going to try your best to make a game in the 48 hours that you have, and just kind of figure it out as you go. The whole starting, I feel, is the hardest part. And game jams just kind of throw you head first in.
Yep.
Yeah, I know there was a question in the chat that was something along the lines of like, how do you become a better game programmer?
I was just about to ask it. Yep.
A lot of it is by doing it, by just making crummy little games. Game jams are great because, like Raquel was saying, it forces you. It's like, you're locked in here for a weekend, make a game. Which is
And
a
even
little
if there isn't
difficult
one
right now.
around, like, lock yourself in for a weekend and say, I'm going to make a game. Yeah.
I mean, most of them are virtual now.
There's a lot of them that have gone virtual in the past year for obvious reasons, but the real life ones are great because they have just that fun kind of like 1990s LAN party atmosphere. But finding a game jam, or even, I know there are some different online communities where people are sharing different tips and tricks. You can try and find yourself a virtual team there and just jumping in. And even if you make something that's not the best game, or is crummy or is buggy or is ugly, it's still something you've made. You've still learned something from that you can build on the next time.
Definitely.
That loops back to something that I was taught by my professor in my first game design course, and it's that you'll always have time later on to make your big games, your Skyrims, your Red Deads, but you have to start extremely small and keep your scope very contained and slowly branch it out.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. And that same person who asked the question was talking about, how could they get an edge to shorten the gap since they don't have a degree in computer science? And I think something that we talked about already was leveraging what exists today. I think that's there's another question around folks who might be .NET developers and kind of the back end. And I can actually help answer this one a little bit too. .NET definitely has a huge support for game development, which includes using kind of those pieces. But as we know, .NET is open source. So then you can actually jump in and see what that back end does look like. So someone who might be a full stack .NET developer, yes, definitely a place for you in game development. And you can go to .net.microsoft.com/apps/games. That's what this site is here. And it's the game engines, the services, the tools, the entire ecosystem. They're still cross-platform. There's a huge community and ecosystem. And these are there's a bunch of different games that have been built with .NET. And as we talked about earlier, Unity actually integrates with C#. That's kind of the default language. You can do this version of JavaScript, I think, still, but that's kind of one of the primary languages there. All right. Oh my gosh, so many awesome questions. All right, let me. What has been your biggest challenge starting up the game studio, and any tips that you might share with others?
Time. It's always a matter of time. The biggest thing that's helped us so far is like that in-person time, 6 feet apart, of course, is extremely crucial.
Yep.
So just like what we started doing is like, if it's a slower week, we pull in and we have like a workathon on like Saturday to Sunday, where it's just kind of like we have kind of impromptu Ghost Garden game jams on the weekends. And we all kind of like come in, we'll order some pizza, we'll sit down, take a look at the game, be like, all right, where do we need to move on this next?
What's
Yeah.
broken? What do we need to fix?
Exactly. So just like the in-person time and like forcing everybody to like come together and be in one place, even if they're remoting in. Because what we did was we set up like a little projector with like a little sound AV setup. So it's like we can remote the people who maybe are in New Orleans, or maybe they don't want to come out yet until they get a vaccine.
Yeah.
Because we're not forcing anybody, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's just super helpful because I don't know, it's really easy to turn around and like Raquel's like, hey, I have a question about this. And I'm like, we can do it like this.
I love it.
I know that line of code.
Yeah.
It's also something, I think this ties into that, but whenever you're working with a team, especially when you're going between the different departments, we've said this before, communication is key. And also something understanding that the person you're talking to from a different department has a different perspective, and they might not be coming with like my technical knowledge, and I don't know anything about lighting, so I'm going to defer to someone else on that.
Yeah.
But whenever you're communicating, not necessarily taking critique personally and trying to be really supportive of each other, realizing that the end goal is the same for everyone, to build a really awesome game.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think we all mesh very well. We've all kind of come in at different points in time to the team, but I feel like we've all kind of established that pretty well, and we have a pretty good rapport, which is a huge part.
Yeah, I was going to say probably the communication piece. And I think establishing roles early on, I think that was a challenge that I had in my early days of, startups or game development, was we were all kind of towards the same mission, but the roles weren't clearly established. And then that would cause issues, because when there was not a disagreement, but just like a difference of opinion, that there's no right or wrong, they're just different. It was really difficult to then make a decision. And it was really difficult to decide what we should scope on, focus on and scope down, because that always meant something got cut off, right? So I think having those roles clearly established and the fact that y'all have known each other for so long, I think is probably really powerful.
I also think that motivation and organization are two big things, because sometimes you can just have a week where you don't really want to do anything, but then our lovely producer Catherine's like, hey, have you done that thing you said you were going to do? And have it just like, and in a good way, like having someone tell you like, hey, don't forget to work on that thing, or just reminders, or keeping everything going and keeping things together is so helpful. And that's why game jams are so important, to start working on stuff like this if you're interested, because it's, once again, someone being like, hey, you got to do this thing during this amount of time.
Yeah.
And then organization is a great thing, just with so many different documents of everything you're working on, what's going to happen next, what's already been done, what needs to be fixed. It's like just hammering all that out. It can be a lot, but yeah.
Definitely.
And I want to say as like a tip, like we're pretty much all college students. We pulled in a teacher from our high school. Like, you don't have to look professionally for like people to work with. Like if you code and you know an artist and you think they might be interested, reach out to them. Just like network with friends. Yeah, you definitely don't have to like wait to get hired by some big firm. Just pull in some friends and start making games. Like that's all we did.
I agree.
Yeah. We're super fresh faces. Like most of us are still like juniors and seniors in college basically. So we're super new. We just kind of a bunch of friends got together making games.
I think, something I've been chatting about with a couple of my friends, because we have some ideas of things that we've been wanting to do for like decades. And finally I got on the phone with one of my friends and we were like, wait a minute, these other people, like, we can do that. They just did it. We just need to do it. Like and I think that's something that always gets kind of, in the way.
That's like the hardest step. The hardest step is getting started, basically.
Yeah.
So just
the chat, folks who this is all new to them, they've known nothing yet, but it's just like getting inspired by it. Other students who are watching and understanding some of the struggles here, and some folks who are checking y'all out on your website and just kind of watching what y'all are building, sending in some hearts, and knowing that you'll probably like dominate any show that you can go into, because the art is just absolutely amazing. I just want to thank y'all so much. Please make sure that you check out Ghost Garden Games at ghostgardengames.com or on Twitter and Instagram, Ghost Garden Dev. I want to thank y'all so much for coming onto the show and spending an hour with me today. It's so neat to see just this amazing group of people come together and create such incredible experiences for people. And I really appreciate all of the insight and candor and just information that y'all have given to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
so much for having us.
Definitely.
Thank you for bringing us out here.
Yes.
This has been such a cool opportunity.
It's been so much fun. It's been so much fun. And I can't wait to keep in contact with y'all and bring you back again and highlight your new game Echo that'll be coming out later this year, hopefully.
Another
This
year.
is your big
Next
one.
year.
Sorry. Yours is your bigger game. That's
Yes.
right. Yeah, sorry. My
The
mistake.
demo will be out soon.
Yep. I can't wait. I'm just trying to be eager. Also, years don't really mean anything nowadays, so we can say later this year. That could be 2024. Who knows?
True. It's true.
Well, thank you all so much for joining again. If you are watching, we would really appreciate if you could please fill out this quick survey at aka.ms/reactor/survey. The event code is 12689. That helps us to know if this is the type of content that you'd like to see, continue to see, and make sure that I don't just spend an hour here talking and you don't want to be listening to it. And also, as always, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter at Dr. Guthels or #LearnWithDrG. If you start your game development journey, if you just start playing some of Ghost Garden games, whatever you're doing, please, I just want to hear about it and celebrate in your wins. So as always, thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you next Tuesday, 3 p.m. Pacific time on the same platform that you're watching right now, whichever one it is, where we're going to be talking about Git. And this Friday, we'll be launching a new video where Scott Hanselman and I introduce you to the What You Didn't Learn in School series that we'll be engaging with in the next couple months. So thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye.